We are counting down the 10 most underrated planes that embarrass $1 million Cirrus where it hurts most. Pure speed per dollar. From home-built lawn darts built on a shoestring to vintage muscle machines, the rich write-off as obsolete. These sleepers crush the Cirrus in climb rate, cruise, and most of all, knots per buck. We will see drag-defying experiments, forgotten 400 horsepower brutes, even pressurized classics, all proving you do not have to pay the luxury tax for real performance. Which old-school flyer leaves the Cirrus begging for mercy at cruise? Let us kick off the list with number 10. Number 10 is the Rutan Veries, the ultimate proof that horsepower is for the unimaginative. Bert Rutan's lawn dart runs a 100 horsepower Continental O200, the same engine you would find in a Cessna 150 that can barely outrun a school bus. But thanks to its canard pusher layout and slick composite skin, the Veries cruises at 160 to 170 knots, burning just 5 gallons per hour. That is nearly Cirrus speed on 1/3 of the fuel, and it will do it all day for the price of a used Honda Accord. Most flying examples change hands for $35,000 to $50,000. Do the math. You are paying around $250 per knot of cruise, while the Cirrus owner is coughing up nearly $7,000 per knot. The secret is no draggy fixed gear hanging in the breeze, no bloated interior, just pure aerodynamic obsession. The canard design shrugs off stalls and spins, but do not expect a parachute or cup holders. This is the working man's missile, and it sets the knots per dollar bar so high the Cirrus cannot even see it. If the Veries is a scalpel, the Lancair 360 is a switchblade. This is what happens when you bolt a 180 horsepower Lycoming to a carbon fiber rocket barely big enough for two. The numbers don't lie: 200 to 210 knots true airspeed on a good day, blowing straight past the Cirrus turbo for less than a quarter of the price. Completed kits change hands for $80,000 to $120,000, which works out to around $450 per knot. That is a hot rod bargain, but it comes with a catch. The Lancair has a tiny wing and high wing loading, which means you're landing at 90 to 100 knots, not 65. There is no parachute to save you if you get lazy. If you float the landing or misjudge your speed, you run off the runway and into the weeds. This is not a plane for Sunday pilots. It is a machine that rewards skill and punishes mistakes. But if you want to humiliate a Cirrus owner, and you've got the nerve, the Lancair 360 is the street racer's dream. All speed, no apologies. Slide open the hangar door on a Meyers 200D, and you are looking at a piece of 1960s engineering stubbornness. This is not some cobbled-together home-built. It is a certified speedster with a pedigree and a reputation that still makes insurance underwriters sweat. The Meyers 200D cruises at 174 knots true, which is just shy of 200 miles per hour. That is with a 285 horsepower Continental under the cowl and a fuselage wrapped around a steel tube safety cage. Forget crumple zones, this is a roll cage for the sky, the kind of structure that lets you walk away when aluminum cans would fold. Pilots called it the Ferrari of the 1960s for a reason. The records it set in its day still stand, and it feels like a sports car at altitude. But here is the catch: fewer than 100 Meyers 200Ds ever rolled out of the factory. Finding one is like hunting a unicorn, and tracking down parts is an exercise in patience and checkbook endurance. The price is $90,000 to $130,000 for a good example, which works out to about $700 per knot. It is not cheap by sleeper standards, but when you are flying a machine this rare, you are buying bragging rights as much as speed. The Cirrus owner has the latest tech. The Meyers pilot has a legacy of raw, unfiltered performance and the scars to prove it. Number 7 is the Bellanca Super Viking, a plane that proves you do not need a wind tunnel or a composite lab to embarrass the Cirrus crowd. Under that old-school fabric skin hides a hand-built mahogany wing, crafted to a glass smooth finish so slick you could shave in its reflection. No rivets, no bumps, just pure laminar flow. That is how you get 180 to 190 knots true airspeed out of a certified four-seater from the Nixon era, all while burning less gas than the Cirrus and costing $60,000 to $80,000 on the open market. That works out to roughly $350 per knot of cruise, a deal that makes the Cirrus look like a yacht club initiation fee. But here is the fine print. Wood wings mean wood maintenance. Every annual inspection you are poking around for soft spots and moisture because ROT is the silent killer in these classics. Insurance companies know it too. They will want proof the spar is as solid as the day it left Minnesota. Still, owners keep speed logs that show these Vikings consistently outrunning aluminum competitors year after year. The Cirrus pilot can keep his glass cockpit and leather seats. The Bellanca owner gets the satisfaction of passing him at cruise with nothing but a hand-rubbed wing and a little faith in 1960s craftsmanship. Just do not skip your inspections, or that bargain speed could turn into an expensive lesson. The Piper Comanche 400 isn't here to play nice. This is what happens when you stuff an 8-cylinder Lycoming IO 720, 400 horsepower, into a streamlined 1960s airframe and let it off the leash. Fire up that engine and it doesn't purr, it shakes the ramp. The exhaust note alone tells every Cirrus pilot within earshot to go back inside and check their insurance. Push the throttle forward and the Comanche 400 rockets to a cruise of 210 to 215 knots true, leaving the Cirrus in the prop wash. That is muscle car territory, not commuter plane territory. But here's the punchline. You will find a solid Comanche 400 for $120,000 to $160,000. That is about $650 per knot of cruise, still a bargain compared to the Cirrus's luxury tax. The catch is fuel burn. This thing guzzles more than 30 gallons an hour when you are running hard. Owner logs read like frat party bar tabs: fill up, fly fast, refill, repeat. If you are the kind of pilot who gets nervous watching the fuel flow tick upward, this is not your ride. But if you want to hear the roar of 400 horses and see the Cirrus shrink in your rearview mirror, the Comanche 400 is the unapologetic brute of the sleeper world. It is ranked here because speed this raw comes with a price at the pump, but nobody ever accused a muscle car of being sensible. Step inside an Aero Commander 1114B and you will wonder if you accidentally boarded a regional jet. This is not a cramped two-seater with your knees jammed against the panel. The 114B boasts a 48-inch wide cabin, wider than most SUVs, so you can actually bring friends who are not contortionists. Forget the Cirrus leather and cup holders for a second. What matters here is space. 4 adults, real shoulder room, and a baggage compartment that swallows golf clubs without complaint. Owners call it the business class sleeper of the single-engine world. Now let us talk about the ride. The 114B rolls on trailing link landing gear, the same trick you find on turboprops and jets. That means landings feel like butter, not a pothole. Insurance companies love it too: no drama, no expensive gear collapses, and a certified airframe that does not scare underwriters. Try getting that kind of peace of mind with a home-built rocket. Speed? The Commander cruises at 160 knots true all day long. That is not blowing the doors off the Cirrus, but here is the kicker. You will find a solid Aero Commander 114B for $140,000 to $170,000. Do the math, and you are paying just under $1,000 per knot of cruise, while the Cirrus owner is still writing checks for the luxury tax. For pilots who want comfort without the million-dollar buy-in, the Aero Commander 114B is the thinking person's alternative. A roomy, civilized missile that delivers real value where it counts. Number 4 is the Questair Venture, a plane that looks like it was designed by a mad scientist with a tape measure and a grudge against drag. This is not just a small airplane, it is a tiny 2-seat aluminum egg with a cockpit so tight you will be rubbing elbows with your passenger whether you want to or not. But here is the punchline: bolt a 300 horsepower Continental IO 5150 engine to the nose, and the Venture will cruise at 240 to 250 knots true airspeed. That is not just faster than the Cirrus, it is faster than most turboprops. The secret is all about cross-section. The Venture's fuselage is barely 38 inches wide, with every curve sculpted to cheat the wind. There is almost nothing sticking out to grab the air, and the landing gear tucks in so clean you would swear the wheels were never there. Owners brag about passing jets in cruise, all while burning less fuel than a Baron at half the speed. But there is a reason you do not see a Venture on every ramp. Fewer than 50 were ever built, and you will need to hunt for one if you can even fit inside. Prices hover around $120,000 to $160,000, which means you are paying about $500 per knot of cruise, still a bargain compared to the Cirrus's luxury tax. The catch is simple, parts are rare, support is thin, and the cockpit feels like a race car built for jockeys. But if you want to show up at the finish line while the Cirrus is still climbing out, the Venture is the ultimate proof that frontal area is everything. Physics does not care about cup holders. It cares about drag, and the Venture leaves the competition in its slipstream. The Glasair III does not just nudge the speedometer, it buries it. This kit plane made certified manufacturers sweat and insurance agents lose sleep. With a 310 horsepower Lycoming IO 550 up front and a composite airframe that looks like it belongs on a fighter ramp, the Glasair III cruises at 250 to 260 knots true airspeed. That is 300 miles per hour on a piston engine with a price tag that hovers around $140,000 to $180,000 on the used market. Do the math. You are paying roughly $600 for every knot of cruise, while the Cirrus crowd is still choking on their $6,000 per knot luxury tax. But here is the catch. This is not a plane for the casual flyer. The Glasair III wing is tiny and loaded for speed, which means approach speeds are in the triple digits. Pilots routinely fly final at 100 knots, with landing speeds that would make a Cirrus driver's knees shake. There is no parachute, no safety net, and no forgiveness for sloppy technique. Get lazy on approach, and you will float halfway down the runway or snap off the end before you even know what went wrong. The NTSB files prove it. Accident rates for the Glasair III run higher than the Cirrus, especially in landing and loss of control incidents. In the insurance world, it has earned the nickname Widowmaker, not because of bad engineering, but because it demands a pilot who is always ahead of the airplane. Still, nothing else in the piston world gets you this kind of raw speed for the money. Owners brag about outrunning turboprops and arriving while the Cirrus is still being vectored for descent. The Glasair III is the ultimate home-built hot rod. All performance, no apologies, and no room for mistakes. If you want to trade comfort for knots and you trust your skills, this is the street racer's final boss. Number 2 is not a kit plane, a muscle car, or a rare aluminum unicorn. It is a certified Cessna with a twist, the P210 Silver Eagle. Here is where the Cirrus crowd really starts to sweat, because the Silver Eagle packs a secret weapon, pressurization, and a turbine engine. Under the cowling sits a Rolls-Royce 250 turboshaft, 450 shaft horsepower, that turns this once humble piston single into a high-altitude missile. Climb to 20,000 feet, set cruise power, and you will see 210 knots true airspeed, while the Cirrus is still choking on thin air at 12,500 feet. Oxygen masks strapped to every face. In the Silver Eagle, you are wearing a t-shirt and sipping coffee, cabin altitude at a comfortable 8,000 feet. Weather in the flight path? Just climb right over it. That is not an option in the Cirrus, no matter how much you paid for the heated seats. But this kind of altitude advantage comes at a price. A Silver Eagle conversion will cost you anywhere from $500,000 to $650,000 all in, depending on airframe and shop. That is still half the price of a new Cirrus, but a far cry from the bargain bin deals of the earlier sleepers. Do the math, and you are looking at about $2,400 per knot of cruise, expensive by hot rod standards, but a steal for certified pressurized turbine performance. And unlike the experimental rockets, the Silver Eagle brings reliability and factory paperwork that insurance companies actually understand. You get turbine smoothness, reversible props for short fields, and a climb rate that leaves piston singles gasping. The Cirrus owner can brag about glass panels and air conditioning. the Silver Eagle pilot just grins, sets power, and leaves the luxury tax behind at flight level 200. The Mooney M20 family is what happens when you take obsessive-compulsive engineering and point it straight at the stopwatch. Forget brute force. This is certified production line efficiency that makes the Cirrus look like a gas-guzzling parade float. Start with the M20J, known as the 201, because it does 201 miles per hour on just 10 gallons an hour. That's 160 knots true airspeed, all day, every day, with a fuel flow that would make a Prius blush. The secret sauce is Mooney's relentless war on drag, flush rivets, sealed control surface gaps, and that signature backward tail, all designed so the air just slips by, barely noticing the plane is there. Every inch of the airframe is tightened up, from the gear doors to the cowl seams. If there is a place for air to leak, Mooney sealed it. That is why you can run a 200 horsepower Lycoming at cruise and still see numbers that leave the Cirrus pilot staring at his fuel totalizer in disbelief. But if 160 knots is not enough, the Acclaim Type S steps in and sets the bar for piston singles. With a turbocharged Continental TSIO 550G up front, the Acclaim will show 242 knots true at altitude. That is officially the fastest production single-engine piston plane in the world. That is 30 knots faster than the Cirrus can ever dream of, and you do not need to mortgage your house to get there. Used M20Js run $90,000 to $140,000, and even a late model Acclaim Type S will set you back $600,000 to $700,000, still hundreds of thousands less than a new Cirrus. Do the math and the M20J comes in at about $1,100 per knot of cruise, while the Cirrus is pushing $7,000 per knot. The Acclaim is pricier, but you are buying the top rung of the speed ladder, not a pile of marketing brochures. Mooney pilots do not brag about cup holders or glass panels. They brag about making it from Chicago to Dallas on a single tank, passing everything in the flight levels except a jet, and landing with enough fuel to go back. The steel roll cage under the skin means you get certified safety, not just marketing buzzwords. And if you want support, there is a half-century of Mooney shops and parts to keep you flying. The Cirrus crowd can keep their parachute and fixed gear. The Mooney owner gets the last laugh, because when it comes to knots per dollar, nobody does it better. This is the final proof. Smart aerodynamics beat price tags and horsepower every time. Across all these machines, one pattern is undeniable. True speed is not bought, it is built. Vintage lines, clever aerodynamics, and pilot skill still outclass a luxury price tag. Today, fast remains affordable, if you value performance over polish. In aviation, the underdog's edge is not dead. It just hides behind chipped paint and retractable gear. Which side are you on? Drop your answer in the comments below.